Hello, dear viewer. My name is Noah, and today I'm feeling a little bit nostalgic. Specifically, I want to talk today about something that is near and dear to my heart. It's the thing that first inspired me way back in the day to teach myself how to program. So, back in the early 2000s, on what I'm calling the early internet, and I call it that because that's when I got online, back in the year 2000, actually. I was about 12 years old. But anyway, some popular apps of the day were um, AOL Instant Messenger and MSN Messenger. Everybody that was on the internet seemingly had one of these messengers, if not both of them. Um, it was a big part of kind of early online culture. Um, and now I have here a virtual machine that's running Windows XP, which is a version of Windows from the earlier 2000s, and I used to have this on my old computers back in the day. I have it installed with the black and orange Zune theme, which I think is the coolest one. The Zune, if anyone remembers, it was a competitor to the iPod way back in the day as a music device. I never owned a Zune, but I always thought it looked really cool with the Windows theme here. Anyway, in the modern era, in 2026, there's been something of a nostalgia renaissance where uh, some people are looking at Windows XP like it's cool retro software, and they're like building new apps and services for it. Um, so like these two instant messengers, um, they used to not work for a long time. Like the official online services that backed these um, had shut down many years ago. I believe AOL had kicked the bucket back in 2018, and MSN Messenger started closing down around the time that Microsoft had bought Skype, and they kind of switched everything over to that. Um, so there's been a lot of really exciting things that's good for my nerdy nostalgia for all the stuff from way back in the day. Um, for MSN Messenger, I found this site called Escargo.chat, and they basically are bringing back MSN Messenger servers where you can download um, the authentic old Windows Live Messenger programs and get them back online again with a modern, account, and you can add your buddies and all of that. Um, there's also a NINA.chat. I believe it's run by the same people, but this one is bringing back AOL Instant Messenger, ICQ, and a couple of other related services. Um, and for nostalgic retro web stuff, this is kind of the tip of the iceberg. Um, I've also seen recently like there's NeoCities. Um, this is bringing back kind of the spirit of the early internet, back when people made these just crazy creative web designs, back kind of before the days of Facebook and everything sort of flattening out and getting sort of boring and corporate. Um, there's somebody who's bringing back MySpace. I have a profile here on this Space Hay site, um, and I'm definitely going to want to dive into all these in another video. But for today, I want to talk about chatbots on instant messengers, um, because this is really like it's how I taught myself how to program. It was kind of my first big nerdy hobby that I got into, um, and so for me, it all started with this one chatbot named Smarter Child. He was a chatbot on AOL Instant Messenger a long time ago, and he was sort of like a prototypical version of what we had, decades later in the form of like Siri on iPhones, or like the Google Assistant, or more recently, of course, ChatGPT and all those large language models. But Smarter Child and these classic chatbots, they had nothing in common with ChatGPT and the modern things. Kind of the vibe for these bots is you would open up a chat session with them, you would say hello, they would say hello back. You could ask them, um, what is the weather going to be like in Los Angeles, and then they would go and find that information for you and then tell you just over instant message with plain language. Um, but these bots were they called them canned response chatbots, as in like the chatbot author needed to anticipate everything that you might want to ask to it, and they would need to program in the responses in advance to give you the answers. And sometimes they would go out to services, like they could look up movie ticket show times or weather, or they could play games with you over instant message. Um, but these were a super fun novelty back in the day. Like nobody on the internet had, in my circles anyway, had seen these sort of things before, and I was fascinated by them. And I was like, how do I make my own chatbot? And um, one of the first sites that I found to satisfy that itch for me was this hosting service called Runabout. And it allowed you to create aimbots. And um, this service is no longer around. I'm viewing this on the Internet Archive. But the idea was that you would sign up an account here, um, and you would program in the messages you want your bot to respond to, and then how you want it to respond. And you would download a little client app, and you would sign your bot onto AOL Instant Messenger, and people could chat with it, and it was a whole lot of fun. Um, and one of the features I remember it had was, because sitting down and trying to program an entire chatbot personality is a fairly tall order, and so Runabout would have what they call base brains. They had one named Eliza and one named Alice. And Eliza was based on a famous chatbot from the 1970s. Eliza acts as a sort of therapist chatbot, so it'll kind of take your messages and then rearrange them and send them back to you. So it's kind of like it's understanding you, and it'll bring back up things you've mentioned earlier. But it's overall not a very intelligent bot. It's very easy to, in just a few messages, to find the limitations of Eliza. Um, but then the Alice bot, on the other hand, was a very impressive chatbot personality. Like she had at least 40,000 messages she could reply to, and it was really hard to um, kind of suss out that she's a robot. Like you could chat for a long time before you get duplicate messages back from her. Um, and so Runabout would allow you to program your own custom bot, but then if a user asks something that you didn't anticipate, it would fall back to Alice or Eliza, so that kind of all the Runabout bots were fairly intelligent. But the downside was that anytime that their servers were under heavy load, they would end up downgrading all of the free chatbots to Eliza, and that would just severely like slash the quality of your chatbot, and your users would notice it. And so eventually I was like, the Runabout bots are cool, but I want to grow and do something that I have more control over. Um, and so after Runabout, I discovered the Alice AI Foundation. And so that Alice personality I mentioned, one of the base brains for Runabout, it was actually a robot developed by the Alice AI Foundation. It was programmed by Dr. Richard Wallace. And Runabout was using Alice's like chatbot language under the hood. Like on Runabout, you could download your bot's brain as text files for offline editing, and then you upload them back to the server. And what you were editing was AIML files, which is um, AIML was the artificial intelligence markup language developed by Dr. Wallace. Nothing to do with AI ML of nowadays, which is artificial intelligence machine learning. Um, AIML was a scripting language for chatbots. Essentially, it was written in XML. Um, but the specific Alice bot that I had played around with back in the day was this one here called Alice Bot Program D. And I chose this one. It was one that was written in Java. I chose it because it supported AOL Instant Messenger, and Runabout had AOL bots, and I already had some running. I wanted to migrate them over to Alice Bot Program D, um, and it worked great. My bot was so fast on Program D because it was running just off my computer. So like when you would say hi to it, it would just instantly come back with a response. Rather than having to go to the Runabout server and wait a few seconds to get a response back. Um, um, but eventually I had come to outgrow Program D for my chatbots, and one of the reasons is because while it was great that the bot could respond instantly to messages, the downside is that AOL Instant Messenger had a rate limit on it, and if there were too many people chatting with the bot simultaneously and it's coming back with those instant responses, it would end up running over that rate limit. And then to make matters worse, AOL had a community moderation feature where people could quote unquote warn others on the platform. And the idea with warning was it was supposed to punish, spammers and bad actors, but people would chat with your bot for a little bit, and then just to be mean, they would click the warn button a couple of times, and then that would put a little warning level percent by the bot's screen name, and it would slash their rate limit even further, making it harder for the bot to chat with other people. Um, Runabout actually had a crowdsourced way of punishing the warners in return, where like if you warned a Runabout chatbot, the entire network would then blacklist you. Like you wouldn't be able to chat with any other robot hosted at Runabout because they would remember your screen name and that you warned one of them before, and you would just be cut off. Alice Program D didn't even have a handler for being warned, so it was just kind of a sitting duck for mean users to come and take down your chatbot. Um, and so for that reason, and also because I wanted to branch out into MSN Messenger, I went to Google and I was searching specifically how to make an MSN Messenger bot because some people had both messengers back in the day, but a lot of people only had one. And all my friends on AIM were having fun with my AIM bots, and I had some friends over on MSN that I wanted to, show my bots to them as well. And one of the sites that I landed on was this now defunct one called Wired Bots, and they had some basic code to get you started doing an AIM bot and an MSN bot, and these these robots were programmed in Perl, um, which for that reason, Perl became my first programming language because I downloaded these and I started, tinkering with them and building my own things on top. And then kind of also around this era, um, there was this site, Bot Depot, which was a great web forum for bot makers to get together and share their knowledge. Um, this one's also being viewed on the Internet Archive. Um, it looks like here I had a forum for RiveScript, which RiveScript is a chatbot language that I went on to develop some years down the road. And it looks like this post here, it says it's by Ser, and that was actually my username on Bot Depot back in the day. Um, I think unfortunately the Internet Archive doesn't have all of these posts indexed. Um, but so now we're kind of getting somewhere. So I had built a handful of Perl bots over the years. I started with the bare bones wired bots templates, and those ones, they would get something onto AOL or MSN, but it wasn't really a chatbot by any modern definition of the word. They were programmed instead where if you message them, they would just come back with a random message from a text file, like random every time, doesn't have anything to do with what you said to it. And as I kind of built these things up and iterated again and again, I would go back to the drawing board and start a new program from the ground up. Um, I had built a handful of Perl bots, which in the modern era, I've archived all of them on GitHub. Um, so I have like AIKS was my old chatbot website that I made way back in the day, and the GitHub organization is named after it. But I have it just here as AIKS Graveyard, and I have kind of a little summary of what these bots were and what they did back in the day. Um, and one that I want to show off today actually is AIKS Juggernaut. This one was one of my large monolithic chatbots, and I call it monolithic because with a single Perl script, this chatbot could sign on several different bots at once. I had support for AOL Instant Messenger, MSN Messenger, Internet Relay Chat. I had it also able to run a web server so that you could, from your website, have a little forum and you can chat with the bot just right there in your browser. Um, and Juggernaut had multiple different backends for the actual brain or reply engine. It had one here called KSML, and um, this was one of my attempts to make my own chatbot language. I loved AIML. It's what I first learned from Runabout. It's what I got to play with the AliceBot program D. But AIML is a very tricky language to implement from scratch, and nobody had really written it in Perl in a way that I could use. And so I was trying to make Perl bots, but I wanted something as cool as AIML, and it took a few iterations to get there, eventually becoming RiveScript. Um, but KSML was an intermediary format of the language. And then I had an implementation here of Eliza as well, which is that classic 1970s therapist personality. Um, and just to peek ahead, I have RiveScript.com, which is my chatbot language. But this video is not about that. I can get into that one more in a later video. But so why are we in Windows XP right now? It's not only for these old instant messenger programs, but it's also because back in the day when I had programmed Juggernaut and these other chatbots, I was running Windows XP, and I programmed them using Perl version 5.8. It was specifically the active Perl distribution for Windows back in the day. And to cut a long story short, I took this old code and I got it up and running again back like here in the year of our Lord 2026. Um, and to do so, I had to modify the code a little bit to plug in the modern host names to get, Escargo uh, and this AOL Instant Messenger client, NINA.chat. Um, but these new services for these old messengers, they speak the same language as the old ones did naturally, and so I was able to get this Perl code up and running. Um, so let's launch it. Here, Juggernaut has signed on to MSN, and then on AOL I have its screen name here being AI Chaos. And let's start with the aimbot first. So it just signed on my buddy list, and I can send it a message. Oh, those classic AIM sound effects. And yes, I am using Comic Sans MS as my font. Deal with it. But this was kind of how these bots worked back in the day. You would just open a messenger window, and you would chat with them, and they would chat back in plain language. And we had things like, it had buddy icon support. It had a profile. So when you check its AIM profile, it would say bot built using CKS Juggernaut by KSAI technology. I believe this goes to AIKS.com, but Internet Explorer here is broken. But besides just chatting, these things also had, fun and games and commands. And so I believe I had one if I did exclamation menu, it'll come back and give me some options. So it says main menu. There's a handful of categories. We have some general. We have fun and games, random stuff, general utilities. Um, let's see what we have for fun and games. And then you see also this bot had a little bit of a delay before getting back to me, and there was a little typing indicator in the corner. And to me, I think the typing indicator was just fun to have back in the day. It kind of gave some illusion of authenticity for these bots, like they're actually like something that exists in the world that are typing messages to you. Really, it would just send the AOL command saying that's typing. Um, but the intentional delay in its response was a way to hedge against the rate limit. Because if it has multiple people chatting, like it it can't be replying instantly, or else like after it sends 5 or 10 messages in a row, it'll start getting throttled by the network, and its messages will stop being delivered. So let's see, it has a fortune command. Let's see what this one does. It says it's typing, and it's going to come back. You and a close friend will be married within a year. How sweet is that? Let's get another. We'll get another fortune cookie and see what it says this time. You're going to have some new clothes. True words have never been spoken. Let's see. Let's make some text late speak. And so, this was a lot of fun. So in addition to just regular chit chat, you could do all sorts of, fun custom functions that basically run with these commands. Now, before we leave AOL Instant Messenger, I just want to bully my chatbot a little bit. You see it has a warning level of 0%, and it has chatted for a little bit. Now, I don't know if this modern AOL network supports warns, but let's find out. So if you clicked it, it would give you this dialog, and you could warn anonymously, and then they wouldn't know exactly who did it, but it would have a lower impact. I think it would do like a plus 5% warning, whereas if you don't warn anonymously, you would get an instant plus 20% on their level. But I'm going to go ahead and click this and see what the bot does. Okay, so a non-anonymous one is plus 15%. And then the chatbot has retaliated. It says, I've been warned by AI Chaos. My warning level has now gone out to 15%. And you see it has a 15% level, and on the buddy list, we're both at 15%. Now, I don't know if it's going to respond to me. Okay, and this was how my Juggernaut program defended itself and punished the warners. Basically, if I have warned the bot before, it remembers me, and then if I message it again in the future, it's just going to immediately warn me. Like, it's not going to respond anymore, it's just going to warn me for whatever I send it. And so now it's bumping up to 25%. And people used to do this to my bots way back in the day, and it was very frustrating because it was basically a denial of service attack that would impact my bot not being able to chat with other people anymore. Now let's go over to MSN Messenger. And with MSN, there was a very fun quirk that we could do way back in the day. So watch what happens when I simply just open this chat dialog. So here, the Juggernaut had just immediately, it said hi to me just the moment that I opened this chat. And this was an interesting quirk of MSN Messenger back in the day, where with AOL it was a little bit like email, where you fire off a message and it goes through the server and comes in. But on MSN, when you open up a conversation with somebody, it would actually establish a specific connection for that chat. And normally, if somebody opened a chat with you, you don't know anything about it until they actually send a message to you. But there were some things happening under the hood that our chatbots could tap into. And so here, like, just from the act of me opening this chat window, it detected that I opened it, and it jumps in first and says hello. And so I'm going to respond to it, and it responds to me. And this chatbot is running the exact same personality as the one on AIM was. And so if I type the menu command, we get sort of the same things here. Let's see what we have for random stuff. Let's see, we have random facts. Let's see what the fact of the day is. A group of rhinos is called a crash. Let's see about a random palindrome. Palindromes, I believe, are words that are spelled the same way forwards and backwards. And in this case, it's actually given me full sentences that are spelled the same way forwards and backwards. Um, and so then on MSN, we had support for doing display pictures and other kind of deep integrations with the protocol in that way. Um, on a related note to this kind of automatic greeting feature, um, a future version of MSN kind of broke this for us because shortly after they added display pictures, they updated MSN so that the client would uh, preemptively fetch them for all of your contacts. So if I had like 10 friends online, my MSN client would go through all those friends and it would connect to them to download this picture so that I could show it over here. And unfortunately for my chatbots, that connection to download the picture was the same connection that would start a conversation. And so when this was first rolled out, my MSN bot would start, unsolicited messaging people. It would just slide into your DMs because it thought that you were going to talk to it, but really your program was just trying to download its display picture. Oh, and I realized that my camera was covering its display picture, so I'll open up a new chat and I have it moved over here. It just has my AI Chaos logo, and then the name Juggernaut, and then AIChaos.com. Um, and that that logo, by the way, it's one that I designed back in high school. I wanted something for chatbots that was a little bit inspired by the biohazard symbol, but I kind of ripped on it and turned it inside out, and it kind of became the logo for like RipeScript and AI Chaos back in the day. Um, and so I've just been having a lot of fun tonight, getting my old Perl code base back up and running again, and actually being able to interact with it live on these authentic instant messengers from the era that these were built. Um, and I think that'll just about do it for today. Thanks for coming along with me on my trip down Nostalgia Avenue. Um, I'll probably do some more videos where I deeper dive into different aspects of chatbots because this is just my early work with bots, and it kind of set my entire career as a software developer on its trajectory. And there's a lot more stories there. And I'm also gonna probably go into some more retro nostalgic stuff, and tell you more about NeoCities and Space Hay and all of that. So if you're new to my YouTube channel, go ahead and subscribe and keep an eye out for what I post next. And as always, I'm Noah, and I'll catch you next time.